I don't know if it was this one, but this one is amazing. How the US government made affordable housing illegal.
So I spend a lot of time looking at houses on Zillow.
Did they? Oh my God, this is like, okay.
And lately, I noticed that even in places where houses are usually expensive, they seem even more expensive. Like here in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh my God.
What has the last year been like?
It's shocking. Buyers are paying 15 to 20% above asking price now. I had a listing in South San Francisco, 32 offers, 31 very unhappy buyers.
For years, the Bay Area has been an extreme example of how difficult it is to find affordable housing in the US. It's where Silicon Valley bus drivers sleep in their cars at night because they can't afford housing near work, and where school teachers can't afford to live in the counties they teach. But it's not just the Bay Area. The lack of affordable housing is a national problem, and right now it's worse than ever.
We've seen over the last year housing prices reach a level that they've never reached before in American history. They kind of just look like a rocket ship, going to the moon. Housing prices reaching a median of $350,000 for the median American home.
Those prices have made rents more expensive and have made homeownership less attainable for millions of Americans.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do a poll. The 12 days or boyfriend dungeon. Oh, dude, f that. We're doing 12 minutes then. Oh, never mind. People are voting already, but it doesn't matter because not a lot of people are going to vote anyway, and I'm going to end up doing 12 days anyway. I don't want to do a visual novel game,
Americans.
So why is
I like that I said no voting. Like, as though mother are going to go vote. Are you kidding me? 30,000 people in here. 3,000 votes overall. 30 fucking thousand people in here. 3,000 votes overall.
is this happening? And how do we bring that rocket ship closer to Earth? We can think of today's housing prices in terms of a supply and demand problem. On the demand side, there are a few things happening. The first is a generational shift in who's buying homes.
Millennials are the biggest generation in American history, and they're aging into their prime home buying years.
On top of that, mortgage rates are at an all-time low, which means it's very cheap to borrow the money needed to buy a house. That's enticed more people to buy if they can, making demand for houses even higher. The problem is that supply isn't matching that demand. From 2010 to 2019, there were fewer homes built in the US than in any decade since the 1960s. In particular, the construction of smaller, entry-level housing, the kind made for first-time homebuyers, has dropped dramatically. In the 1980s, those starter homes made up around 40% of all homes built. Today, it's closer to 7%. In 2018, one estimate said the U.S. housing market was 2.5 million homes short of meeting demand. By the end of 2020, it was 3.8 million.
And that's driving a big part of the problem, both for renters and for people who want to be homeowners.
The shortage is worst in the places where demand is high.
Road 96 is a political game XQ was playing yesterday. What is it? What is it about? We'll look at that too.
Near good jobs, transit, and schools. And one pretty straightforward solution to that is to just build more homes in those places. But for years, there's been one big obstacle to that. We aren't allowed to. Take a look at this map of the Bay Area.
There is truth to additional housing, okay? There is truth to creating additional housing. The problem is, most of that ends up being luxury fucking high-rises. No one wants to make affordable housing, and no one will ever make government, like public housing made by the government, okay? That's the issue. And the video is not even addressing the fucking problem with like vacant homes. So many rental properties, so many vacant homes, so many people just like sitting on all of this empty property that could be better used.
It's showing something called zoning, or local regulations that decide what can be built where. This much of the region is zoned for residential housing. In blue are areas zoned to allow multifamily housing. while the areas shaded in pink are zoned for single-family housing only. That's 82% of all residential land in the Bay Area.
What it means is that you've banned the ability for anyone to build anything other than a single unit of housing on that lot of land.
And in many towns, like Atherton, they've excluded all multifamily housing from their neighborhoods.
And that doesn't just mean a giant apartment building. It means things like duplexes, things like, fourplexes, things like that are illegal in the majority of the country.
This is an example of something called exclusionary zoning. It's a big part of the reason for the housing supply shortage.
I always feel like motherfuckers are constantly talking about like upzoning and dismantling regulations exclusively so that like everything can be luxury high-rise condominiums that are ugly as shit that are not going to end up fucking fixing the housing problem at all. And it's going to turn it into like New York. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's more space now for, more rich people to come in, but
in the U.S.
Yeah, it's like tear down the single-family homes to build a Target with condos on top. Exactly.
And single-family...
Certainly not a place you'd live in. I mean, yeah, I fucking very hypocritically own a... what is a YIMBY and why does it suck? No, I don't have a problem with being a fucking YIMBY. I literally talk about public housing all the goddamn time, and I do not care if it's like built in my backyard. Yes, in my backyard. No, in my backyard is the... is NIMBY versus YIMBYism. Most people are very, very against building stuff in their backyards, quite literally. So you're saying it's an artificial shortage of housing? The CEO of Vox Investor General Atlantic is on the board of BlackRock. Come on, it's like a parody. Are you shitting me? Everybody wants to blame BlackRock. Nobody wants to blame low supply, low mortgage rates, and the enormous demand for starter homes. YIMBYs are in favor of deregulation. NIMBYs are in favor of making sure that no additional buildings are being constructed. Both have I don't know. I'm neither. I'm usually a fan of regulation, but I do feel like
more than 1 year of
the only fucking dismantling of regulation should be in favor of decommodifying housing in general. Okay, why would anyone want more single family housing though? Cities built to serve suburban families that require multiple personal vehicles to get anywhere fucking sucks. I don't disagree with that either. I really saw the disappointment on your face. Yeah.
Skyscraper.
I mean, she did talk about duplexes and 4 stories and 2 stories. I don't have a problem with that.
Family-only zoning is just one way local laws limit how much housing we can build. Many places also employ height restrictions. In Cupertino, California, some areas are zoned for multifamily buildings, but they don't allow any buildings over 2 stories. Parking requirements are often written into zoning laws too. Cupertino requires developers to set aside space for 2 parking spaces for each unit of multifamily housing. That means if you were building an apartment complex that had 100 units, you'd need to find space for 200 parking spots, which usually means buildings that size don't get built at all.
They lower the number of units they're actually building so they can save space for those parking spaces. And then those units become more expensive because the land still stays the same cost to the developer. And you then get a situation where potentially more affordable units turn into higher income servicing units.
Another feature of many zoning laws is minimum lot sizes. It means builders are legally required to allot a minimum amount of land for each home, often a large amount of land. In Cupertino, most single-family lots must be at least 5,000 square feet each.
Starter homes are usually around...
I think it's 6,000 in West Hollywood. People who are saying, what the fuck? I mean, if you live anywhere else, I promise you, it's not that big. If you live in fucking New Jersey or anywhere else, you're imagining something massive. It's big. It's much better to build an apartment. It's a much better use of space to build an apartment or a multiple family home. But for people who are saying 5,000 square feet, holy shit. Like, there are people fucking literally live in houses that are the size of that lot in like most parts of the country. Kansas City suburbs are 8,000 square feet, yeah.
1,400 to 1,500 square feet. And so you've basically banned all that type of housing.
In Atherton, the minimum lot size for homes is 1 acre,
Yeah.
more than 43,000 square feet.
See, motherfucker, like, most parts of the country, people are like, what? 5,000 square feet? That's crazy. It's like, dude, are you kidding me? People live on fucking, like, multiple acres, dude.
Which makes it virtually impossible to build any kind of affordable home there. Together, exclusionary zoning laws like this push builders across the country to focus on bigger, luxury homes instead of smaller starter homes or multifamily housing.
Essentially creating gated communities in public spaces. What you are saying is that you are only allowing people who have already been able to partake in the wealth of this country and to grow their income and have access to high opportunity jobs and education to live in our neighborhoods.
Historically, some of the first zoning laws in the US were engineered for that exactly, to block people of color, and in particular Black Americans, from living in predominantly white neighborhoods. Today, the laws don't explicitly mention race, but they continue to worsen segregation. In the Bay Area, the more single-family zoning in a neighborhood, the wider it is. But all this has another effect as well. By shrinking the pot of new housing getting built, while demand keeps rising, it drives up the cost of housing.
People get so mad at me, especially in this community, about this take, where it was like, why don't you deregulate zoning laws? Why don't you fucking advocate for zoning laws? And I personally feel like it is literally a consequence of my advocacy. It's fine. There's like definitely deregulation if you want to fucking build. If you want to build public housing, I'm perfectly fine with that. But why don't you deregulate zoning laws is always so fucking dumb when there's already vacant homes. Like, we need to implement price control. We do need to build more housing. But that needs to be the type of housing that, like, actually fucking is affordable or free that people want to live in. If your hyper focus is like, oh, let's allow, like, more buildings to be built, you're wrong. You aren't as well informed as you portray yourself, but I like you. What? But we agree on the 5K square feet.
Housing for everyone. Changing zoning laws can be difficult, and often the biggest obstacles are the wealthiest residents.
The process is usually defined by who shows up to these public meetings, and what you have is often a much whiter, wealthier crowd, the ones who come and say, I don't want this in my community, I'm concerned about what will happen to my property values, and then there's this kind of code word, neighborhood character.
Remember those teachers I mentioned who can't afford to live in the counties where they teach? Well, in 2018, one local school district proposed a solution, building affordable housing units for teachers in San Jose. It caused an uproar among San Jose parents, who petitioned against changing the neighborhood. It may not seem like a big deal when one wealthy neighborhood blocks one multifamily development. The problem is that it happens all the time. Communities.
Because in this country at this stage, if you have fucking home ownership in an urban environment, that means you're wealthy and therefore powerful, and therefore you literally functionally run the city. That's why I've talked about, like, the mayor of New York. When we talk about the mayoral race in New York, it's like, that's not a person, okay? That's not an individual with their own personal ideology. That's not a person that actually is like, yeah, I'm a leftist or I'm a right winger and I'm going to do this. Like, no, that's a person who is managing the interests of the commanding economies and their power brokers. Okay. That's all you're doing there is just like doing a balancing act between the police, in New York, it's police, Wall Street, and real estate developers. That's literally all you're doing. As you try to most ethically fucking purge homeless people away from the areas in Manhattan that are expensive, okay? And that's it. That's literally your job as the mayor of New York. Same with California, too. Same with Los Angeles.
Block new housing everywhere.
people are, when they hear this kind of rhetoric, very confused because they're like, you know, why I don't want to live in a place with 10,000 apartment buildings. It doesn't even make sense to do that. And they're right. No one is saying that there should be every neighborhood in every city should be, 10,000 foot apartment buildings or anything like that.
But even small, gradual changes to zoning laws can have an impact. For example, allowing smaller homes on smaller lots, or simply allowing duplexes, would double capacity for housing in some areas. In recent years, some cities like Berkeley, Minneapolis, and Portland have taken the huge step of ending single-family zoning. But the problem is nationwide.
The real fix is going to happen when these decisions start being made and start being regulated at the statewide level or at the federal level in some capacity.
Today, the Biden administration is attempting to tackle exclusionary zoning through a $5 billion program that would give money to localities that remove exclusionary zoning policies. But even that may not be enough.
This is more than any presidential administration has done on this topic, either Democrat or Republican. It is also very small in the face of this problem. They want to take action, they recognize how big of a deal it is, but they are not actually willing to create the kind of political blowback from often very high-value voters living in suburban environments.
Ending America's housing shortage will require real political willpower. And it'll require people across the country to take a look at their own neighborhoods. What gets built, who gets excluded, and how to make homeownership achievable for the millions who are shut out.
Road 96 gameplay trailer. This video is like, let's do the projects and make sure BlackRock owns it. There are hella condos being built in Berkeley, but they've all got that gentrification glass look, are in no way affordable. LMAO. Wait, what? You mean to tell me that areas that are upzoned immediately get fucking swapped up with, luxury high-rise condominium developers and no affordable housing is actually allotted? And even in places like New York, where there's like conditional developments, where there is actually a separate part of the building where, the poorest can live, is still not enough, and it's not necessarily like diverse housing at all. So and there's a massive fucking wait list and a lottery to be able to even get that inexpensive housing in New York, and that all of these are actually just misdirections, and the real problem is actually building public housing, but no one wants to do it because ultimately homeownership is the single most important way to develop intergenerational wealth in this country, and historically that's how we've literally marginalized black people, for example, and that homeowners are seen as like small business owners that are sitting on these like incredibly valuable investments, and therefore they do everything in their fucking power to ensure that the property values never go down. As a matter of fact, only goes up. And that's precisely why we will never have anything that fucking hurts homeowners and their fucking dumbass investments, because no one actually buys a house to live in the house forever, but instead they buy houses exclusively so they can fucking sell it later down the line, because everyone believes in the American dream and no one gives a fuck about living in a place and, building a family, and the whole like American dream white picket fence is a complete fucking lie, and everyone was a goddamn shark con man. Yes. That was your question, then yes, you are correct. Anyway, let's watch this. Says the homeowner. Yes, you are a if you don't comprehend what I'm saying. I'm saying that as a homeowner, as a new homeowner, first-time homeowner, I do not care if the price of my, the value of my home goes down, because I do not rely on that as an investment vehicle. I make money off of my labor, okay? And as do many Americans. So I do not give a fuck if the price of the value of my home goes down ultimately, okay? Especially if the counter to that is that we have public housing and permanent shelter for homeless people living on the fucking streets and eating trash, okay? You can leverage it for retirement. You want to retire, right? You can leverage a bunch of different things for retirement, so it doesn't fucking matter. Hey, I'm the one who posted the Vox video. I thought it was pretty good, but I'm not incredibly informed on housing. Thanks for your insight, though. Vast majority of what you're saying rings true. When it comes to zoning specifically, is there anything you do want done? Yes. I'm in favor of deregulation only if it's to allow public housing or affordable housing to be built. Okay? That's it.
Ghost of Tsushima DLC.
With
Sticky Island
absolutely,
Pokemon
like with
HasanAbi.
price restrictions set ahead of time so that people can't like take the new housing and try to
11
sell it
months.
to
I am
or
now
try
more
to rent it
leftist
out
than
to
you and will
like
start a splinter
wealthy
Discord
people.
where me and my 3 friends relentlessly shit on you. Hassle.
Anyway, it's top of the fucking hour. It's time for a 6-second ad break. You
Socialism
already know
means
what the
no
deal is,
house.
okay? Okay, I am going to run an ad. Hold on. I'm just like looking at the SB 10 and SB 9 is something I'm looking at right now because
11
apparently
months on the day after our holiest day, Prej.
some people were suggesting that I talk about SB 9 and SB 10 in California. An accessory dwelling unit being part of a new initiative called Backyard Homes, in which homeowners receive help building an additional ADU in their backyard for exchanging. Dude, this is gonna be fucking abused, bro. That's crazy.
Nice.
They're like gonna build mini homes so that homeowners can become mini landlords, dude. Oh, God.
To
This
brand,
literally
what am I doing with
allows
myself, FSNY?
homeowners to be able to convert their garages into a living space so they can have their fucking like mini slave. An ADU is what every single fucking
Hi.
Los Angeles house that I looked at has. Called an auxiliary dwelling unit or an accessory dwelling unit, okay? It's basically a garage that is converted into more house, okay? Dude, this is your solution? Jesus fucking Christ. I swear to God, dude. Like, neoliberals are so fucking psychotic. Oh no, houses are being built. How awful. We can't just give them away. Yeah, fuck yeah, bro. Now we can all be landlords while we're surfing for even greater landlords. Also means that normal houses will charge even more because it will be better than this garbage. Isn't this just feudalism? Yes. Oh, fuck. I keep forgetting to run the ad. I'm running the ad. Kind of like a tyrant myself, you know? I force you to watch ads if you don't subscribe. I'd get one and not rent it out. 2 homes for 1. You probably have to. Is there not basement suites in the US? No, not in California. California basement is literally a fucking manhole in your house. This does help us move back with our parents, or our parents can move in with us. Yeah, dude. So that new homeowner HasanAbi can fucking build a fucking auxiliary dwelling unit in his backyard and say he's charging rent to his mom and dad and take advantage of a nice little home reconstruction project, boost the fucking property value, okay, tremendously, because now you have a fucking ADU and that's like an investment vehicle on top of the original house that you have, okay? All of a sudden you got the fucking government to pay for like a massive greenlit reconstruction project in your fucking backyard. Bam, you've literally fucking quintupled your value. Okay? Great.
Waiting for Hasan, what will he do when he's live? Is he gonna commentate on random videos? Go mold and cry, he can't keep getting away with it every time. Waiting for Hasan, painting his nails and playing ads. When will he stop getting bullied by his chat and Daph? His head's so small.